Hi everyone, my name is Simeon Ajinbiayo. So, as a citizen of the United States, you must understand how the government operates. So, in this video, I'll take you through on a street video that I took, interviewing some people, asking them some questions to understand how they really know about the United States government. So, some of the questions that I was asking involved what are the three branches of the government, what does each branch do, and knowing that we have two participating parties, major parties in the country. We have Democrats and Republicans. So I was just asking the rest of the people, do they know the third party? And also I was trying to ask them what is the basic process by which a bill becomes a law. So basically I was trying to move through those questions and asking my followers or the people I meet on the way on the street to get to know about their understanding. So straight away I'll just take you through some of the people I interviewed and you get to understand what are their views. So after they talk about that, I'll come in then to tell you what are the real answers to these questions. Thank you. You can have a look. Hi, my name is Simeon.
Yeah, I'm Joseph.
Joseph, just wanted to ask you a few questions. I'm a student at the University of New Southern Hampshire University. I have some questions I would like to ask you. Is there any problem?
No problem.
No
Yes,
problem,
thank you.
please. Okay. Do you know maybe the United States of America? You know it as a country?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you know. So there are some branches that the government of the United States owns. So do you know some?
Yeah, I know I know three only.
Yes, maybe can you name them?
But there is legislative
Mm-hmm.
and the juridic
Mm-hmm.
and the executive.
Good. Another question is, do you know the branches of this government of the United States? Do you know the roles and how they are connected to each other?
No, they are no idea.
No idea, no idea. Okay, another question. We have three parties majorly that work in the United States. We have the Democrats, Republicans. So do you know any other party?
That I know, there is Mania Party.
Minor party.
Minor
Good,
Party.
good. Mm. Another question. Do you know how this third party impacts the national politics?
That no idea.
No idea. Okay. So, do you know maybe the role of this minor party?
No idea for this.
No idea for this. Great. So the last question. Do you know the basic process of how a bill becomes a law in the United States Constitution?
No, that also I don't.
That also you
I
don't know. Thank you very much. My
Yes.
pleasure. It was very nice
Thank
to
you.
meet you. Thank you. Hi.
Hi,
How are you?
fine.
My name is Simeon.
Mine is Fidel.
I'm a student at the University of New Southern Hampshire.
Okay.
I'm carrying out research, and I was just asking a few questions. So would you allow me to ask you some questions?
No problem.
No problem. Maybe you've heard of the United States branches of its government.
Branches.
Yes, branches of the government of the United States. Do you know some? They are mainly three. Sorry.
No, I don't know.
You don't know. Okay, that is fine. Another question is there is how these branches do, how they work. So, and there is how they regulate each other through what we call checks and the balances. So, do you have an idea of how these branches work
No, I don't.
and how they are connected?
No.
No idea. Thank you. So in the United States, we have three major parties,
Yes.
and those involve the Democrats and Republicans. Do you know maybe what is the third party?
Yeah, that one I know.
Yeah, you
It's
can-
called the minor party.
the minor party.
Yeah.
Great, interesting. Yeah. So these two parties, the Republicans and Democrats, as the dominating parties. So would you know maybe why the third party is there? So what is its role in the national politics?
Maybe I think the role of the third party is just criticizing the acts of those two parties, those two major parties.
Yes, yes.
Maybe that's the role of it, I think.
That's interesting. So the last question, there is what we call the basic process by which the national bill becomes a law. So do you know how a bill becomes a law?
No, I don't know.
You don't know. So you don't know the process
I don't
from the
have no
sponsors, the
idea.
committees, up to debating and voting. You have no idea.
No, yeah.
Um, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank you.
very
It was
much.
my pleasure meeting you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Great. Welcome back now. From what you've been hearing now, those are the people I met on the street, and that's how they were able to answer the questions that I was really asking them. So I'm now interested in taking you through these questions and giving the proper answers. As you heard, some of them don't really have an idea of what are the branches of the United States government. They don't know what does each role play, what the role does each play. They have an idea, no idea about how the three branches are connected. They have no idea about how they regulate each other, having no idea about which is the third party after the Democrats and Republicans. They really have no idea about how the third party impacts the national politics. You know, going through all the questions, they really met some challenges, but I'm here now to take you through some answers. So, coming on the first question, I was asking what are the three branches of the government? The US federal government has three branches. So, from the executive part, it includes the president and some workers, while the legislative includes the Senate and House of Representatives, and finally, yes, the judicial. The judicial with the Supreme Court and the law courts. So in general, there are three now. Three branches of the U.S. government. We have the executive, we have the legislative, and the judicial part. So the role that each plays is determined by the power or the authority that is governing each department or each branch. So the executive branch is administered by the President of the United States. And here he enforces the laws that the legislative branch or Congress makes. So the legislative branch also is sometimes called the Congress. It makes the laws which the Senate and House of Representatives or laws with the Senate and House of Representatives. So the House of Representatives meet together and discuss the ideas and decide if these ideas, and in brackets bills, should become laws. And the judicial part, the judicial branch of the United States includes the Supreme Court and the 9 justices. So this involves judges who interpret laws according to the Constitution. And this is according to Harry in his article in his article of this year, 2017. So the second question involves it just talks about how does each branch do. So what does each branch do? That's the question. Good. So the three branches are connected in this way. The three branches are connected basing on the U.S. constitutional checks and the balances. So power is shared and sometimes separated. So they regulate each other, of course, using the checks and balances. So both branches regulate each other through what we call the checks and balances. Here, all branches have to check on each other on items of decision making, thus one party limits the other. So the executive headed by the president, legislative with the Congress, and the judicial with the Supreme Court all have to check on each other's actions or balance the actions of the branches with their own actions. So this is also helped by the forms of powers. So we have the express and implied. So express powers are granted, and Constitution implied powers are derived from those express powers or of the branch or the branch law. That is according to Fort Smart. So the third question, was asking, after the Democrats and Republicans, so which is the third party that plays role in the politics of the United States? So minor parties are not more; they are more than one. So we have what we call the Green Party, Socialist Party, and Libertarian Party, Constitution Party, and the Reform Party. So the United States have got some minor parties alongside the two major parties. So how did the two-party system start? That was another question. So the two-party system dominated by the Democrat Party and the Republican Party. It started since the elections of the 1852 in the control of the whole United States Congress, and to some extent since at least 1856. However, the political party system did not develop until the tax reform. So the first party system of the United States featured the Federalist Party and the Democratic Republican Party, or what they call the Anti-Federalist. So in 1829, the second party system saw a split of the Democratic Republican Party into the Jacksonian Democrats, who grew into the modern Democratic Party led by Andrew Jackson, and the Whig Party led by Henry Clay. So the third party system stretched from 1854 to the mid-1890s and was characterized by the emergences of the anti-slavery Republican Party, so which adopted many of the economic policies of the Whigs, such as national banks, railroads, high tariffs, homesteads, and aids to the land grant collects. So a lot of stories would be talked of how this the two-party system started, but in general the idea is this started around 1880s, no, around 18th century, coming to the 19th century. So, like, if we give an example, talking about all these parties that were involved, we talked of the first party, second, third party, fourth, and the fifth party. But we could say that the Republicans began losing support after the Great Depression, so giving rise to Democratic President Franklin D. Roosevelt and the activists' New Deal. So experts bet whether this era ended in the mid-1960s when the New Deal coalition did, the early 1980s when the Moral Majority and the Reagan coalition were formed. So the mid-1990s during the Republican Revolution all continues to the present. So since 1930s, the Democrats positioned themselves more towards liberalism, while the conservatives increasingly dominated the GOP. So this according to courses.lawmanlearning.com. So the other question now comes talking about what is the impact do the third or the minor parties have on national politics. So I would say that these parties are working as opposition parties to the existing parties. We had the major parties, the Republicans and Democrats. So these minor parties have been impacting the national politics through enforcing decisions made by the two other parties. So they usually organize and mobilize around a single issue or opposition, putting pressure on candidates from the major political parties to address the issues. So, for example, segregationist American Independent Party candidate George Wallace gained 13.5% of the popular vote in 1968 election. So in response to the Republican Party adopted a Southern strategy to win the support of conservative Democrats in the South who opposed the new civil rights movement. So although it is unlikely that a third party candidate will ever garner a plurality of the vote, they can influence the elections by taking votes away from the major parties and the major candidates, of course. So this was an issue during the 2000 election when the Green Party presidential candidate Ralph Nader took votes away from Democrat Al Gore. So a situation that some left contributed to the victory of Republican George W. Bush. That is according also to the course.lominlearning.com. The other question was asking what is the basic process by which a bill becomes a law. So a bill becomes a law. That's a great discussion in the Constitution. So here we're just going to describe the role of sponsors, committees, debating and voting, all this. So the idea, we're just going to talk of how the steps are taken before a bill is called a law. So the first step, a bill is born. So anyone may draft a bill, however only members of the Congress can introduce legislation, and by doing so becomes the sponsors. So the president or a member of a cabinet or the head of federal agency can also propose legislation, although a member of Congress must introduce it. So the second step, the committee action. As soon as a bill is introduced or is born, it is referred to a committee. At this point, the bill is examined carefully, and its chances for passage are first determined. So if the committee does not act on a bill, the bill is effectively dead. The third step is subcommittee review. Often bills are referred to as subcommittee for the study and hearing. So here the best comes in now. Hearings provide the opportunity to put on the record the views of the executive branch, experts, or other public officials and supporters, and opponents also of the legislation. So in the fourth step, they do what we call markup. So when the hearings are completed, so the subcommittee may meet to mark up the bill. So that is make changes, you understand? Make changes and amendments prior to recommending the bill of the full committee. So if a subcommittee votes not report legislation to the full committee, the bill dies automatically. So if the committee votes for the bill, it is sent to the floor. So the other step now comes in as step 5, committee action to report a bill. So after receiving a subcommittee's report, after receiving subcommittee's report on a bill, so the full committee votes on its recommendation to the House or the Senate. So this procedure is called ordering a bill reported. So now comes in voting the major part. So after the debate and approval of any amendments, the bill is passed or defeated by the members of voting. So then the other step comes as referral to other chamber. So when the House or the Senate passes a bill, it is referred to the other chamber, where it usually follows the same route through committee and the floor action. So this chamber may approve to reconcile, may approve the bill as received, reject, or ignored. So the other step is conference committee action. So when the actions of the other chamber significantly alter the bill, a conference committee is formed to reconcile the difference between the House and Senate versions. So if the conference are unable to reach agreement, the legislation dies. If agreement is reached, a conference report is prepared describing the committee members' recommendations for the changes. So both the House and Senate must approve the conference report. Remaining a few steps, final action. After both the House and the Senate have approved the bill in identical form, it is sent to the President. So if the President approves of this legislation, he signs it and becomes a law. So if a President takes no action for the 10 days while the Congress is in session, it automatically becomes a law. If the President opposes the bill, he can veto it. So if he takes no action after the Congress has adjourned its second session, it's a pocket veto and the legislation dies. So the last step is overriding a veto. If the President vetoes a bill, Congress may attempt to override the veto. So if both the Senate and the House pass a bill by 2/3 majority, the President's veto is overruled and the bill becomes a law. That is according to NHGRI 2012. So thank you very much for being with me in this video. I was trying to give you now where the answers from the questions I've been asking or interviewing the people to know more about the United States government. Thank you for being with me.